What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Auburn Blitz podcast here on a Wednesday morning, halfway through the week. And glad that you joined us here. Bruce Pearl, all-time winningest coach after last night. So congratulations to him. We're going to dive into that. Auburn wins. Tennessee gets destroyed. And drum roll, please. You heard our cry yesterday to get over 500, and we did. We're actually cruising on past 500 subscribers now, so we really appreciate it. And we appreciate Sense of Green for air that's cool and clean. Call on Sense of Green each and every morning. They are your carrier dealers here in the state of Alabama. So when you're looking for a new heating and air unit, call on Sense of Green. They've got some great promotions going on right here in the early part of 2025 to help you out with your money. They're just basically giving you thousands of dollars right now. So make sure you give Sense of Green a call. Tell them Auburn Blitz sent you. I know they'll be very appreciative of that. But again, Auburn wins, and Bruce Pearl becomes the winningest coach in Auburn basketball history. He had a vision in 2014, and that's what he said in his opening press conference. He wanted to be the winningest coach in Auburn basketball history. Took him 11 years, but he got there. And really the last 5 years have been phenomenal. The first 3 years, it was a work in progress. He inherited one of the worst basketball teams in this conference, and he has put them on top of the mountain. And Auburn is one of the best college basketball teams, not only in this conference, but in the country. And it's going to be that way moving forward. That's just who he is. And he's got a system in place, and he's got a set of standards. And if you want to play for him, you're going to have to do it his way. And, he has such a great way of keeping kids in his program, maybe longer than other schools do in this day and age. And he also has a great way of selling kids, great basketball players, on the fact that if you come here, you're probably not going to play as many minutes as you would at another school, but you're going to get more out of it. And they buy into it and they stay. So, man, congratulations to Bruce Pearl. Randy, I'll go ahead and put that up there, the graphic that was put out last night. Bruce Pearl, all-time winningest coach in Auburn basketball history.
Best coach for any sport, in my opinion, in Auburn history. I go back, of course, to Pat Dye's. You and I are two 80s kids, so I can have a good argument back and forth that Pat Dye is just as important to Auburn football as Bruce Pearl is to Auburn basketball.
He was.
He changed the culture. He changed the opinion of Auburn football during a stretch that we were coming off of 11 consecutive losses to our nemesis across the state. And it only took him a couple of years to change that whole perception of Auburn here in this state and nationally. And we had some moments, though, in football, and we've had some brief moments in basketball where we've been a success nationally, but nowhere near to the level that Bruce Pearl has marketed this program. I said it when he was first hired. So we need someone to come in here that's silver-tongued, too. They got to go out there and they got to sell the Auburn program on that this can be a winning product and one that you should support. And I couldn't imagine going and hiring anybody better than Bruce Pearl when it comes to that. He's the best in the country. He's the very best in the country at selling what he's doing and what his staff is doing. And I think a lot deserves to go. A lot of the nice things that are being said about Bruce Pearl also should be said about his staff. He's got a tremendous staff.
And
he really does.
Staff.
And I think they love him as much as the players that have come through the program do. You can sense it when you watch the way that they interact with one another on the sideline. You see a lot of them have hung around when probably they had a lot of opportunities to go out there and get jobs elsewhere. And the dynamic, the father-son dynamic is also something that's very interesting here. There's no part of me that thinks Stephen Pearl has not had an awful lot of opportunities to go to maybe a little smaller school and be a head coach. And I watch the way that Stephen Pearl interacts with officials and the way that he carries himself over there on the sideline. He's a fireball, Brett. I remember him defending at Tennessee, man. He had that fire inside him that made someone that may not be a premier athlete, a very, very positive player out there on the court with the effort that he gives. And I think that when he carries that over to being a head coach, but I've had the good fortune of working with my father. That is not easy. That is a very, very difficult thing to find a relationship and a culture that you can build with one another. It doesn't mean you don't love them, but you and I've got a lot of the same values and a lot of the same interactions with our fathers. They can prod the hell out of us and we can prod the hell out of them, and we seem to appreciate it.
Right.
But working together is really difficult. So I think that it also needs to be said here that these 214 wins, an awful lot of them have had the same group that's sitting over there behind him. And when you keep people around, you're building a program that people want to be a part of. When people run with the first opportunity that they get, and we've seen it a lot in Auburn football, the culture's not good, man.
No, it's not.
They're wanting to run away from it.
Well, think about it. I mean, from a common sense standpoint, when you've got a guy that's been with you or multiple guys that have been with you for years, you don't have to reteach every year guys on your staff your expectations and what you want to do. I mean, that's already a given. You already have bought in to the culture. So it's just go back out there and do it over again. And you're not having to retrain coaches. And so, yeah, it has a lot to do with having a solid staff that you trust, that you don't have to do every single thing. They understand what your expectations are. They have the same expectations, and they go out there and they coach to that level. And, I want to go back to when Bruce Pearl was hired, and I remember him coming in, and look, you and I were students at Auburn. We happened to be there during one of the best years in Auburn history in 1999, where Auburn went 29-4, was a number one seed. The only time we've ever been a number one seed in the NCAA tournament. It was a special year. But outside of that, most of the time students didn't give a rip about basketball. Let's be honest. It was not a fun product. I sat at press row for a few years where, man, it just wasn't fun to go. And I had to work because I was in media relations. But that wasn't the thing to do if you were a student, was go to a basketball game. There were other things to do, and basketball wasn't one of them. He went around during the week. He would take himself and some other coaches, and maybe Albee every once in a while, they'd bust into a class in the Louder Business Building, and he'd say, "Hey, I need everybody in this room to come to the basketball game," and he'd give out free little passes for free food or something. He said, "Come support our team. We need you." That man got on the ground, and it was not bigger than him. He was not sitting up in his office saying, "Well, I'm Bruce Pearl and everybody's going to flock to Neville Arena to see me." That guy rolled his sleeves up. He's out there in the outside part where the students are camping, and he's buying pizzas, and he's out there personally handing those things out. Man, he understands that it's not bigger than him, that he's part of it and he's the reason, but he's just like everybody else, and he gives you that persona. You and I have been in multiple settings. I've been in multiple golf tournaments with him. I've been in multiple meetings with him. And the guy, well, he just is a everyday guy like the rest of us. He doesn't want to be viewed any other way. He likes to cut up and laugh. He likes to have conversations. And, we're talking about the guy that just became the all-time winningest basketball coach, and it won't change anything about him. And that's what's so good about Bruce Pearl, and that's what everybody likes about him, is he's not, a guy that comes off as this elitist, I'm better than everybody. He's a down-to-earth, great person who happens to be a hell of a basketball coach, and I'm glad we got him.
He's what we would like to think an Auburn man is.
Absolutely.
It's not greater than thou. It's not someone that's that you can't interact with, and someone that you look over there and you go, "Oh man, do you know who that is?" And then you go over there and you talk to them, and they're not wanting to interact with you because they're too good for you. And right. I have complained over the years that we have had some people in the athletic department there at Auburn that have not acted that way. I've dealt with them. I've dealt with them in different facets of my business life here for 20 plus years, different facets of our media business. And we get in the car, and Brett, and what do we look at each other and say? Man, I tell you, I'm disappointed that that's the way that things would be handled at Auburn University. I think more of this place than that. I grew up thinking more of this place than that. And then Bruce Pearl comes in, and it's like, I'm telling you, if you aren't willing to work and you think that you're an elitist and you think you're better than everybody else, you better get the hell away from him.
Yeah.
Because he is that strong leader that you're going to either get behind the way that he's going to drive this thing, or you're going to get off of his bus.
And, you know, he's the leader that loves.
But let me say this.
Yeah.
He's picked the right people, Brett. I say it all the time, man. When I meet Chad Pruitt, or I'm engaged with Ira Bowman at a father-son basketball camp that we go to every year, when I watch the way that these guys interact, and I see the Bryant Smiths and the great players from the past that he's put on this roster, and they may sit over there like Marquise Daniels, and they may not have a whole lot of interaction that go on in the games, but trust me, those players that come on that campus, they can go back and look and see how great a player they were. And if they need someone to lean on, that's the reason Bruce Pearl's got them there. And the way that he's built this thing around faith too, I mean, watch this group interact together. You can tell they love one another.
Right.
And they got leaders on this team that are very vocal too. So it's a beautiful thing to watch. We're really lucky as Auburn fans that whatever the heck slightly went down at Tennessee was our benefit. And sometimes it takes. I was watching a podcast yesterday with Tucker and Billy Bush. I don't know if you've watched it. Brett, was very good, by the way. I love Tucker Carlson. He's not one that gets on there and just says how great he is and how he has no flaws, and the people that he interviews has no flaws.
Absolutely. I mean, he talks about his past.
He'll call his flaws out, he'll talk down on himself, and he'll allow the people that come on. But Billy Bush said something yesterday that really struck me, is sometimes as men, we've got to have things that not necessarily go our way,
right,
to pop up in the middle of our life where you go, you know what, I got it pretty good. Let me look around here. Let me make sure that I see things aren't that bad.
Right.
And until we get that way, we get big-headed. And when we get big-headed, we don't do things that drove us to any success that any of us have ever had. And I thought about that. I said, I don't know what it is about men that are that way. But so my point is, we're the benefactor of a setback for Bruce Pearl. He had that setback because he had Tennessee going in the same direction, man. Everywhere he's been a winner. And, he was able to rebalance himself and get another opportunity here at Auburn. And he'll go down as the most beloved coach in Auburn history, in my opinion.
You know what shows with him and his staff? You just said it about the father-son camp. Did you ever feel at any time those assistant coaches or anybody you interacted with didn't want to be there? No. That you got a vibe that, hey, I'm just being forced to be here and go through this mess? No, because those guys truly enjoy getting up and going to work and doing. Look, why do we do what we do in the mornings? Why do we do media work? I got into this, and you just brought up a great point. I don't want to go down this path, but I do want to say this since you brought it up. I got into this because I love sports and I love broadcasting. When I was a little kid, I idolized Jim Fife, and that's who I've tried to emulate. I've told people that forever. Jim Fife didn't have the perfect oratory style, but what you got away from when you turned on the radio with him is you knew he was an Auburn guy. And I've tried to do that in my broadcasting for the high school program that we broadcast in our high school. And then we know how to be neutral because we do the network stuff. But I love broadcasting, and I love what we do with our programming. And I truly, just like I know you do, appreciate every single person that tunes us in, that comments. I mean, we're not better than anybody on here. We do this because we love it. We have a passion for it. And sometimes in the business world, you get caught up in all the other stuff and you forget why you're doing what you're doing. And again, Bruce Pearl is who he is because he loves genuinely going to the practice facility every day and coaching those kids. and he loves coaching basketball, and those assistant coaches do too. It's no different, so you do lose your focus sometimes in the things of life, and you go, man, I do have it pretty good. I get up in the morning and I get to do a podcast with one of my good friends, and then I get to go meet people, and I get to go have meetings. You can make things what they are. You can go over here and you can look at all the bad stuff that's going on, and you can forget how blessed you are with the other things. So didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole, but that is exactly why we get up and do what we do, because
I
love
think
it.
It's a huge part of his success.
It absolutely is a part of his success.
I mean, he
loves what he's doing.
You can see it, and you can't put that on. And your answer to that, and we've been to, I guess, 3 years of father and son basketball camps there at Auburn. And I do enjoy it. And you know me very well. If I went the first year and I thought there was some hypocritical people around me that were just there to do it, and they didn't really want to be there, it was just another payday or a way for somebody to get a supplement to make some money, I'd read through that.
Sure.
Would I go back, Brett?
No.
Not a chance in hell. You couldn't force
That's one thing about you and I. Let me tell you something. And most people that watch this, and even the new people that maybe don't know us as well as some of the ones that have been watching us forever. Hey, life's too short, man. I ain't got to hang out with an asshole. I'm sorry for my language, but somebody may look at me that way. They may say, "Oh, that guy right there is one. He takes one to know one." But I can tell you this: I don't have to show up to your party and you walk around with your pinky out and stuff up in the air. So you do have the freedom in this country to still get away from people like that. But what you're saying is, no, you wouldn't show back up. And number two, they are genuinely involved because they care and they want to be there. And it's not just, hey, I'm showing up for a photo op and I want to make out like we're some, great program. And then when we turn the cameras off, we act a different way. That's not who they are.
Can't say enough good things about him. We'll segue into what we saw last night. Just tremendous win for Auburn.
Huge win.
Let's just take a step back and watch what happened in the rest of the SEC last night. I mean, you had Tennessee go down to Florida and get annihilated. Now, they shot it really poorly from the outside, but all of us are going to have games where we shoot it that poorly from the outside.
But you know what you got to do, man? When Tennessee, and I'll add this to this because I want to get to – we got a lot of comments. I want to get to some of these. Tennessee's got to learn, just like we do and anybody else, when you're not hitting your threes, you got to change. And here's the thing about basketball. You get down, which Tennessee got down 12-0. So guess what the mentality is? I'm going to shoot my way back in it. How do I shoot my way back in? I can hit me 3 threes and I can cut this thing in one possession. Well, it's kind of like gambling, right? You put $100 down, you lose it. You say, I'm going to put 200 down because I need to get my 100 back that I lost and I need to get back. Well, then the next hand of poker, you lose 200. Well, I'm going to put it down. I'm going to put 400 down. I got to get my 200 back and I want to make. You just keep doubling down. You keep digging a hole. Well, once Tennessee got to the point where they're like, man, it's not falling. We got to change our strategy. And again, Barnes and on the road and whatever, you got to do a better job of getting your guys reeled in and say, look, quit shooting these dang threes. We're not hitting them. We got to get back in this game. If we keep shooting threes and only having one possession and we don't win the boards, we're about to get run out of this gym. And that's what happened to them last night. Do I think Florida's that much better than Tennessee? Absolutely not. But when I look down and they're 4 of 29, and at one point in time in the game, they were 1 of 25 shooting 3-pointers. That's why they lost that basketball game. They shot themselves out of that game.
They did, and it's easy to do. And we've had moments here at Auburn where we do that. and the biggest compliment I have for this team this year, and I keep saying it over and over again, is we can win in a lot of different ways. And Bruce Pearl has got this team built around the ability to go inside and win when we need, the ability to start a basketball game going inside to Janai, and it may not be a bucket that he gets, but it's a physical play. It's some fouls that he's starting to get built up. And so, yes, back to that Tennessee and Florida game, watching that Florida team, I think if we go down to Florida last night, we don't win down there. So, look, it is what it is. You and I said it yesterday. I'm not knocking Tennessee for that loss. But then you watch also with Kentucky. Kentucky just – you go on the road anywhere, back to my Vandy comment yesterday, we were a
Right.
lot better basketball team than Vandy a couple of years ago. But you go to Nashville and you don't play your best basketball,
You're gonna get
and you
beat.
get in this odd gym and you're not making shots, and things seem to be closing in on you, and the crowd kind of starts getting hyped up. And next thing you know, you've lost a ball game. And Kentucky felt a lot like that last night. So, let's just take a step back as Auburn fans and being disappointed that we gave up a pretty good lead there in the last 5 minutes. Man, we held on. We made free throws when we needed to. Yeah,
That's
they
what
had a
good. That's
guy.
what good teams do, man. They find a way to scrap it out.
Now, one takeaway from Texas last night, you don't want to play Texas in about 12 games. Texas
No.
is really young, Brett. I know they got one really good player that went off on
Well,
us last night.
Arthur Kaluma's not going to score 34 every
He may
night.
not score 34, but this is a team that had no returning starters.
Right.
This is a team, Fish said it last night, this is a team that's going to find their way. And the deeper in that basketball game that they got last night, they were getting shots.
But you know,
too, Brett.
Yeah, they did. And the thing about Arthur Kaluma is you're like, yeah, maybe he doesn't score 34. But on any given night, anybody can get hot. We saw the Duke kid that had not really scored anything, score 18 in the first half, and really was the difference in the game. So you have to almost anticipate there's going to be a guy. I remember a few years ago, Auburn, every time Auburn played somebody, there was one guy on the team that cared.
I remember
you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we went through the whole list. It was like 10 or 11. They had their career night against us. And it was like, we shut everybody else down, but this one guy had 30 points. And it was like that every single time. And that's what Arthur Kaluma did last night. Because you go down through here and, Johnson only had 11 points. And that was their guy. He averaged 20. But, that's what it takes. You look at Auburn's box score. And Miles Kelly had a night. And it's a good thing he had a night. Because if he didn't score 18, we don't win this game. And he was carrying Auburn there for a while. And I know we got out to a 21-point lead. But, you look at Dylan Cardwell again, 17 minutes, 0 shots. Now, he did what he needed to do to get in there and get 6 rebounds. So he played his role. But it's odd, Chad Baker-Mazara. And that's the first comment here. And I want to pull some of these comments up, Randy, to get your thoughts on them too. Kyle said, I think what gets lost in this season and this team is just how good Chad Baker really is. Not nearly the team we are, even with Broom, without him. Let me tell you something. You watch his energy, dude. And when you need a basket, when you need a guy to just say, look, I got this, he's going to go in and create something. And you got to have that on your team. And Kyle's right. Chad Baker, without him, we'd be missing a very valuable piece of this basketball team.
His length, his wingspan, Brett, his ability to create a little unorthodox with that left-hand shot. I mean, all of those things, all those attributes that I just brought up there is the reason that he can, when needed, go and get a shot. And I tell you, Miles Kelly's close to that. I know he knocks down threes, Brett, but his length,
man,
and his ability to start and stop in the lane and find ways and unique ways to get to the bucket, and doesn't necessarily always make them all and doesn't necessarily always shoot, but you've got 2 long wing players out there that can shoot the three, shoot free throws exceptionally well, and can go get shots when you need it. And when you shoot free throws the way that Auburn does, there's another thing. Yeah, we used to let players get off, but we also miss free throws down the
stretch.
Our
free throw shooting is so much better, man.
It's so good, and there's so much confidence when we step.
I hate Baker-Mazara. I hate he missed that free throw on the, ended his streak at 51 consecutive made free throw. I don't know. Is that anybody ever done that at Auburn?
No. It was a new record.
That's what I'm saying. It's the new record. So, I mean, that gum. I mean, I remember the days when I'd love to make 50 free throws in a season. It seemed like with the way we shot them. So, Janai with 20 and 12 again last night. Hey, that's what he is, man. And again, nonchalantly scores 20 points. It feels like that's what I'm not diminishing it, but it's a 2-horse race for Player of the Year. Cooper Flagg at Duke and Janai Broom and with us, and they're very close in their stats. With what they average point wise and things that they do, but every pundit out there says that if they had to vote, it would be Janai Broom and what he brings. No cut against Cooper Flagg, but that's just how dominant he is at his size and what he's able to do and his versatility. So,
Hey,
he
I
said,
think let me jump in real
yeah,
quick.
go
I
ahead.
think a
Go ahead.
lot of that is going to end up the same way that the Heisman Trophy ends up, though, Brett. You're going to look down at the end of the season and which one of them drives their team to the best success between the two of them
Yeah.
is going to be the one that's going to get it. When they're that close, and they're that close. If Duke goes on to win their conference, win a majority, if not all of their
I
games
don't
in
see anybody
conference,
beating them in that conference.
and then they make a really deep run in the NCAA tournament, and those are better than what Auburn ends up doing over the next couple of months, then you may see Cooper Flagg, and vice versa for Auburn. I mean, if Auburn ends up having the better season, it may come down to that with those two, because the two of them seem to be separating
Maybe you
themselves
see
for
both
sure
of
from
them in
everybody else.
the national championship game in San Antonio. And
Well, we'd
that would
take
be
it.
great. Yeah, absolutely, we would. All right, Hugh said Burgermaster will go somewhere else. Great coach. Again, been with Bruce a while. We'll see. I think he's not
Well, he's one that I think also has opportunities, and I think
but
he's a
right.
mastermind when it comes to basketball. But when Auburn looks down, and let's just say, and I'm just throwing hypothetical numbers out there. Let's say that some coach, I'm not using him for instance, but some coach makes $300,000 or $400,000 a year, and then they get a smaller school to offer him up, and I don't know what that number needs to be. Auburn and Bruce Pearl's not going to lose him over a couple $100,000 or
Oh no,
something. So it's going to take a major school to come in here and see the value there. And I think that's the reason that Bruce Pearl's been able to hold on, is he has sold this Auburn basketball program and administration and donors to knowing that, you get what you spend. You get what money you put in and what effort you put
Right.
in. And we've got a very deep bench of coaches over there that have been around a while. And when you keep them around, you got to pay them. And I'm sure we're doing that.
Yeah, no doubt. Zach's got a couple comments. Yeah, only 12 made baskets for Tennessee. It was just a horrible night for them shooting the basketball. They got all out of sorts. They couldn't make shots at the rim. It just, again, and Florida students weren't even back. School's not in for most people. They don't get back till next week. So, man, just imagine that crowd in there with a full deal of students. Held my son on my shoulders. We stormed the court in '99. We beat Vanderbilt that night to win the SEC regular season championship. I'll never forget it. I was sitting on press row. Still have those memories in the back of my mind. With all the seniors, do you think we may lose a coach or two because they are under him? Again, that's kind of what we're talking about, Glenn. Bruce Pearl is going to always be a guy that encourages his coaches to go out and seek opportunities, but they've always got a place with him. And like Randy just said, if it's a couple $100,000, not going to let that happen. Going to meet that and maybe tell him. I remember guys like Jeff Capel and Duke prodigies coming up under Mike Krzyzewski, and they would ask him, Coach, what do you think about this job? Should I take it? And he'd go, no, you shouldn't. You'll go down there. And I remember Jeff Capel wanting to take the Auburn job. And Mike Krzyzewski said, don't go down there. Don't go to that program. They don't care about basketball at Auburn. You're going to go down there, and you're not going to have the things that you need. They're a football school, and you're going to be second fiddle, and it's not going to be good for your career. So he didn't come down here. And so, again, when you have that much respect for your mentor, you're going to ask them, what do you think? And, I think Kirby Smart asked Nick Saban about Auburn, and Nick Saban said, yes, take the job. But here's what you got to do. Take that job. That's a good job, obviously. But here's what you need to ask them. And if they don't meet your deal, don't go, because you need to have control of your program. So I think that's pretty much well known that's why Kirby didn't end up at Auburn's, because we weren't going to give him the control we needed or he wanted. And so I think there's a lot that goes into that, Randy.
No, I totally agree. I think that there's been plenty of opportunities for a lot of those guys. I love the way that they carry themselves, and I'm sure that a lot of other people that are more engaged in going out and finding young up and coming coaches see the same thing that we do as Auburn fans. So I think they'll keep getting, and you want them to get opportunities. But the thing is, you don't want them to jump ship at the very first opportunity because they're miserable where they are. And that's not the case at Auburn with Bruce Pearl. these guys will hang around longer than most would because I think they
Right.
truly appreciate the setup that they've got there in Auburn and the leader that they've got in Coach Pearl.
I agree. Bubba brings up a good point. Again, you want to win the game and you win a road game, it doesn't matter. You'll take 1 point wins. Auburn did have a 21-point lead. You got to credit Texas for coming back, but we made things a little bit closer than they should have at the end. He said, great road win, but you were hitting the head, but for God's sake, stop griping about every single time somebody touches you. The referee finally got tired of it, and he did miss it. He got hit in the head. But again, in a very fragile time in the game, you can't give them, free points at the line and get the ball back when they're trying to cut into a lead and make it a one-possession game. So Bubba brings up a good point there, Randy. And, for the most part, we held our composure together. And Janai is a fiery guy, and he does complain a lot. You watch him, that's just part of his nature. You take the good and the bad with everybody. Everybody has good points and everybody has bad points, but just glad that didn't cost us there at the end.
Well, again, it came back to us knocking down free throws to close it out, and we were able to do that. So I agree with you, Brett, but it's also a learning situation. I feel like we lost that game in the NCAA tournament because we lost Chad Baker, and none of us want to see that happen again. So that was a learning situation for him, but it should be for everyone else. And I hope last night is another opportunity for us to go, look, we're an emotional team with an emotional coach that's fiery, and you don't want to take that away because I think it does drive part of our success, but you've got to be able to calm it down in key moments a little more than we've been able to at times. And so I think, again, just another really good learning moment last night. We don't want to see it happen again.
Well, Justin said it. He said you can't control a lot of things, but you can control your attitude, and you got to know in certain moments, hey, referee missed it. And I think Fish said it on there. He said, you can't show the official up, right there in the moment. At the next stop and play, you got to go, hey, man, guy slapped me in the face every single time. Please watch this. Every time I try to make a move, he's hitting me in the face. And then if he keeps doing it and the guy don't call it, I get it. You only take so much. But that's one of those things. Zach T and Hugh going back and forth on who they think the top five are in the conference right now. And look, Tennessee, I'm not bumping Tennessee all the way out. They had a bad performance on the road. They got a rebound from it, and I think they will. But look, I think Florida has made a statement by going on the road and losing to Kentucky only by 6 and scored 100 points. And then doing what they did to Tennessee, I think they're right behind us right now. So I agree with Zach. I think Florida may be right there behind us, and then Alabama, and then however you want to look at Kentucky, A&M, and Tennessee, I think they're all deserving of that as well. What's your thoughts?
Well, you know how big of a look. I'm no Alabama fan at all, but I'm a big Mark Sears fan. I love the way he plays, and as long as they've got him at point guard, they can beat any of us. So I don't care how you line up the first three. It really doesn't matter to me. All of them can go win a national championship, and thank the good Lord above that Bruce is at Auburn, and we're one of those three I just mentioned. So my top three teams are the same as y'all's. I've watched Tennessee play 3 times now.
They're not over. I mean, look, offensively, man, they're not overwhelming. And look, I know they got Ziegler up there too, and I think he's pretty doggone good. But I'm not trading. I'm just looking down. We talk about this in football all the time. I'm not really trading anybody we have.
No.
And I don't think Alabama's trading Mark Sears. And I think if you go down through here in these top 10, we played Florida in that SEC championship tournament game, and I was there. It was a great win for Auburn, and I knew they had a lot of those pieces coming back this year, and that's another Bruce Pearl guy. Those two guys are really, really close. He's Bruce Pearl's his mentor at Florida. They have a close relationship. And he's got a great program down there at Florida, man. And thank God we got them at home. They got to come to us. That's going to make a difference. Now, they're really good. Condon and Clayton and all those guys are really, really good players, but they got to come get a win in Neville We don't have to go to the O'Connell Center and play them like Tennessee did. That's a good thing. Glenn said we're lucky to have a great group. Justin said, I remember the Barbie and Lebo days when y'all were questioning why we let go Cliff Ellis all the time. Hey, no doubt. And I know, Randy, you've said it a million times. We ran off a guy playing the game like everybody else was playing. You know, we acted like, oh, we can't do that. We might get in trouble. Well, what were you going – if they gave us the death penalty, what was going to be worse? That might have been better. You got to start over. You know,
I've seen my father, who is, I mean, he bleeds orange and blue. He's like Roger Pritchard. I mean, these two, they get physically ill when we're not good as a program. They take it to the extreme. I haven't seen him near as upset with anything that Auburn's done over the last 25 years as when they got rid of Cliff Ellis.
Right.
We all like Cliff Ellis.
Great coach.
Now, and I think he was really close to building that thing back up again. Did he have it anywhere near where Bruce Pearl's got it now? No. But at the time,
he was working it that way.
He was working it, and he was playing that underground game. And we were doing some things for our players that hadn't been done at Auburn before that were going on at some other blue blood programs. And, you know, let's tap the brakes here a little bit. It wasn't very long ago that we had an administration at Auburn that wasn't even putting Bruce Pearl up on the video board at the football stadium because of the same type of deal that got rid of Cliff Ellis.
I think people need to really keep that in their mind forever. Auburn
they need to always remember who was in leadership at that time at Auburn University.
And how they almost destroyed what we've got right now.
Amen. And you got to know that they can infiltrate any of your programs. And when you get bad leadership and you get bad people around you and they can be at the top of things, you got to call a spade a spade.
They can ruin it. They can ruin it.
They almost did. Very, very close to it. And now you'd have a lot of people that wouldn't even know who the heck the leaders were at that time. You and I do because we sit here and talk about it a lot. But nobody's ever going to forget who the hell.
I'm going to tell you one thing. Dadgum Alan Green and Stephen Leith will go down as two of the worst leaders of both the college and the athletic department. And some people on here may know those guys and they may disagree, but I can look at what they did. I can look at what they did as far as positive versus negative. And the negative column's way up here. And when you got a guy that's so skittish, you know, Alan Green didn't stand behind Bruce Pearl. He didn't stand behind his coach, you know, and he left him out there on an island by himself and wanted him to get up there and say things at that press conference. And thank God Bruce Pearl's got enough sense to get a lawyer. And that lawyer said, don't you get up there and say a word. You ain't got to tell anybody anything. You ain't got nothing to say. So you just stay away from the mic. And if Auburn felt like they needed to try to skirt the situation and tiptoe through the tulips and not put your basketball coach up on the Jumbotron in Jordan-Hare Stadium, then so be it. That's a poor look for somebody that's supposed to offer leadership to everybody around them. And thank God we got rid of them. I mean,
well, and let me jump in right here. As an 80s kid, what we've done to Chuck Person is abysmal. I mean, everyone needs to, and was he right all the way around? And did he have some faults maybe sure.
He fell on the sword for a place he loves. Place he loves.
You better not forget it. And I won't forget it. You'll never hear me say, I mean, up until this run of players, he's always been my favorite Auburn basketball player. And most of us that grew up during that stretch, and that includes Charles Barkley.
Well, the Person family, all of those guys. I mean, Wesley Person and then Adrian Person when we were down there in school. I mean, their whole team, their whole family's Auburn. And it started with Chuck Person. And they're the reason they came to Auburn. And you're right. I mean, it's the further you get away from that, hey, look, USC fixed it with Reggie Bush. Auburn needs to fix it with Chuck Person. They didn't make that right. They need to say that was a bunch of do about nothing. All that crap that went on when the FBI got up there and pointed a finger at the camera and said they're coming after everybody and they didn't go after anybody. You know, and we ended up having to be a fall guy. We had guys that were a fall guy because of that. And you know, they need to make it right. Need to make it right. That's all I can tell you. some more comments coming in. Just said, love our mix of offensive weapons. Janelle inside, Miles at the 3, Tahad driving, baking lasagna from anywhere, and the free throw line. That's right. It's kind of a whole deal all the way around. Glenn said a 4-point shot is not far away from an NBA test, I think. I don't, man, the NBA is so unwatchable right now, guys, for me. I used to love the NBA. Randy will tell you. I think Luke and I are the two NBA guys in our group. I do not watch that anymore. That is not the NBA I grew up watching. That is a Mickey Mouse, touch foul, prima donna sport. And I hate it because, man, when you and I grew up, Randy, watching Detroit and Boston and Chicago and New York and LA, man, those were fun matchups on Saturday, NBA on NBC and high-profile players. And, man, there was blood on the floor and they hated each other. And, you know, that's what the NBA was built on. This product they've got, that's why their ratings are terrible. And nobody wants to watch it because it's unwatchable.
It's not good basketball. It's the reason so many of these European players are coming into the league and they're nowhere near the athletes that we're producing here in the States. But they're as good, if not better, players because they're system-oriented teams. And all of those teams you just brought up, I can go back and I don't even have to ask you, and we know systems that had to be put into place to play the way that they did.
Right.
My favorite one of them was the Lakers. I was the Showtime. I love Magic. He's always my favorite. I love their up and down. I love their fast breaking, but I also liked that they were very physical defensively and could be as rugged as Boston could be back in the day. And Boston made it ugly, and Boston could score it like Justin just said right there. I mean, Boston was probably the premier team at being able to score it at all levels.
Right.
Mid-range game all the way down to McHale and Parrish down in the post and could get it done and dribble drives. They were beautiful matchups. And we don't have it anymore. We don't have it. We've taken the physicality out of that game. And I love that's a detriment to the game.
I like Steph Curry, but Steph Curry ruined this game. Everybody thinks they can shoot from half court now. And, you know, watching these teams play, everything is either a three or a dunk. There is no working the ball around. It's drive down. No, don't care if anybody's under the goal or not. I'm gonna shoot it up, and then the other team comes down and does the same thing. I mean, you've seen the chart. We've talked about it. The amount of threes getting jacked up in NBA games right now is stupid, and it's a terrible brand. And look, you know what happens when you entertain things like a 4-point shot in basketball that's been around forever, gimmicky stuff like that, is you're trying to adapt to the way players are playing the game instead of forcing them to come back and play the game the way it is. And when you have to resort to gimmicky things, that means your product isn't really, really good. So you're trying to bring people in with other stuff rather than watching how the game should be played. So we can talk about that for another time. He said Cam's father was prohibited from all football games. He still hasn't been to Auburn. I wish somebody would offer him to come to a suite or something. When you hear Cam Newton talk about that, man, it makes you sick what he went through.
Well, I understand why the administration and some were mute when it came to that at the time.
I do too.
Because you didn't want to screw it up at the time.
Right.
But the further that we get removed from these things, much like USC, you bring up a great point. The further we get away from these things and we see how hypocritical and ridiculous so many of these things that we made into a big deal were, you really do need to reach out and engage and say, man, I apologize. Look, we had these reasons for the way that we did this, but Chuck Person, my Lord, we apologize because we know in your heart of hearts, you were doing what was best, what you thought was best. Right. For the school that you loved and you bled for and you played better for than just about anybody else that we've ever had in program history. You need to do that. And Cam Newton's father, if you haven't watched the Club Shay Shay interview with Cam Newton and all that went down at Auburn, please do. It's well worth the watch. Trust me, as an Auburn fan, you'll leave there thinking more of Cam than before you listen to it, Brett. Would you agree with that? and what he went through and the way that he was able to handle himself and deal with all that was going on. I don't know that many of us could keep an emotional state the way that he did during that stretch, but we know he's special. But a lot of the reason he was special is, you go back to that comment, was because his father was strong, very strong-willed, and he fell on the sword for him. He dang sure did. So that's a great idea. Somebody does need to do that.
All right, a couple more comments because, Randy, I know you need to get out. Justice said, you know who else was a big part of the FBI thing? Bama's second in command now, Preston Murphy. I did not know that. So I tried to block all that garbage out, and whoever, was involved with all that. I'll never forget that press conference.
I won't either.
And that was, I really thought at that time, like, man, they've got the FBI involved. Man, this thing's about to go down. People have had enough. And they're about to go out, and it fizzled just like everything else fizzled. I mean, everything that you see with the NCAA and you think something's got teeth just absolutely goes away. And you don't hear about it anymore. And so that was my Missouri moment with the NCAA and the FBI. When I found out really what a fluky nothing that was, I said, they can't do anything to anybody and aren't going to do anything to anybody. Obviously, somebody got to them and scared the hell out of them, and they backed off. So,
I said the same thing that I'm saying now, and you're more than welcome to go back. And by the way, thanks to all of our 500 subscribers.
Yeah, I'm about to do some stuff.
We just got started with our YouTube page a couple of months ago, so to grow it to that's really important to us, and we want to thank all of you for that. But Brett and I have been doing programming here in this state for 20 plus years. Just a lot of it's TV and radio and some social media. So not just getting started, but just getting started in a lot of these realms. But you're more than welcome to go back and look and see what we said during that press conference after the FBI did. And I can tell you exactly what I said, Brett. What I said was, you're not going to hear a single negative comment come out of my mouth about Bruce Pearl during this entire stretch. And if Auburn's administration doesn't back him, I promise you that I'm about to get on camera and back him. And I said the same thing then about Chuck Person. And my biggest gripe with all of it was, if you expect me as an Auburn fan to watch someone build a program finally that we've been begging a basketball coach to do here for my entire lifetime, to sustain a great product for Auburn basketball, and we'll get behind it. And then the moment that they're doing what we knew all other blue bloods out there were doing, and competing with whatever was going on the underground level of being able to get players into your program that could take you to the next level. If you wanted me to say something negative about that, you're crazy. You're nuts.
We won't say anything about it.
Heck no. And we knew it then, and I think we know it even more now. And so, if we started the program, though, there was not a single negative thing that could ever be said about Bruce during that stretch. And I'm telling you, he's only done even better since then.
No, I agree with that 100%. One thing to close out with him, and again, congratulations to Coach Pearl on being the winningest coach in Auburn basketball history. And he's not done. He's going to keep, those wins are going to keep going up. So again, we want to give him the praise that he deserves there. Again, going back to Bruce, I think I've had an opportunity to interview him several times, and I had a chance to interview him before all that FBI crap came out, and then of course after. And again, I go back to what I said at the beginning: he hasn't changed as a person. He's still the same guy, and that's why you and I decided, hey, we're not saying nothing bad about this guy, because I've met him, I've been around him. This guy has the best interest of these kids and this program at heart, and he's going to do what it takes to put this program at the top of the heap. And he's not going to do any more or any less than any of these other schools out there that have been, knighted as blue bloods, like Kansas and Duke and North Carolina and, back in the day, Kentucky and UCLA and all them. How dare you creep up there in our territory? And that's exactly what happened with Cliff Ellis. Somebody threatened Auburn because they'd never been any good, as far as steady good, consistently good. And he started getting them up there in a situation where they became a threat. And then he had a great recruiting class with Lewis Monroe and Marco Killingsworth and all those guys that were coming in, and he was building Brandon Robinson, and and they were about to be even better. And then somebody got cold feet and thought they were going to get turned in, and Auburn had a bad history with NCAA. Okay, let's be honest. So there were people with cold feet, and they said, we got to get rid of him. We don't need the NCAA creeping around our doorstep. So he fell on the sword there, trying to build a program. But these blue bloods were doing that, and Ole Miss did it in football. You got Robert Kimdichie, and they got, Laramie Tunzel, and all those guys are number one players, and there's certain school we know of didn't like that very much. Hey, they really didn't like it creeping into their territory. And it wasn't just them, but there were a couple more that jumped on board and said, we're about to get them out of here. And so phone calls were made, and all of a sudden NCAA showed up at Ole Miss, and we knew they'd paid them because Robert Kimdichie was getting offers from everybody. But they got sacrificed on behalf of the elites, because how dare Ole Miss creep up there and be good in football? Well, for all the negative stuff we talk about with NIL and portal and crap, I will say this. You seen a lot of these guys get the hell out because they don't have the advantage they have anymore. Now, we can say all we want to. And look, I do truly think that, for Nick Saban's sake, there's some things that he did. And, I think he really cared about the players. He built the program up. But let's be honest, and we all know this, there wasn't no that you don't have the product to go in there and say, hey, we're the only ones that can do this out here. You can come here and we can do this. Now everybody can do it. So when you level the playing field, you don't become the guy up on the pedestal anymore, and you got to fight and you got to try other things. And I think some of these guys said, I can't do it anymore, and I got to get the heck out. So
very good points. Look, Brett, I want to talk about those hats that you've got there. We've got some new Auburn Blitz hats. We've got some new Auburn Blitz gear. We'll let Brett look through some subscribers, and maybe you want to make a post out there, Brett, after you scroll through, and stay tuned in. If you're on YouTube and you haven't found us on Facebook, do that. It's Auburn Blitz on Facebook too. It's right. So go and find us there, and we'll make a post on some of the winners that we'll be giving away to. And look, let's go ahead and take it out. Next time when we get to 600, we'll do the same thing. So every 100 that we've got going up all the way to 1,000, we'll be giving away some, and we'll get that shipped out to you. If you're in a different area,
we'll ship it to you. Absolutely.
We'll make sure to get it to you. But Bunkers over there in Auburn on West Glen, tremendous sponsors here of our podcast programming. If you haven't been by, please do. It's a beautiful location. They've got great lunch, got a nice bar. They got 7 or 8 simulations in there that you can go in there and bring your entire crowd, whether it be your work crew or maybe even recruits that are in town, or whatever you need to do. Make sure to stop by Bunkers and patronize them. They're great sponsors here on our Auburn Blitz programming. I've got to get on the road right here, Brett. Head over to Auburn. We've got a new location that we'll hopefully be closing on in the Auburn market. It's right beside Laredo's on Opelika Road. It's an ABS building currently, but we'll be housing Sign Source and Lee Apparel. No, we're going to stay here in Dave. Dave will always be important to us from a production facility standpoint. We're going to move into some new areas, and we're going to start in Auburn. So you'll be able to stop by and do all the work with us. And Lee Apparel and Promotional Products, custom screen printing, corporate apparel, DTF printing, promotional products. We can help you there. And Sign Source from start to finish. We can design you a sign, to install you a sign, and there's all in between. If you call us and say, do y'all do this type of sign? Yes. Can you get me this? Yes. Yes. The answer is yes, all the way around. 256-825-0197.
Yeah. Real quick before we let you off, a couple more comments. Ed said, I'm so happy CBM and Cheney are on our team and both straight up dogs. I've watched the refs the last 3 games. SEC officials are absolutely targeting both of those guys. If y'all think CBM is the only trash talking, you're not paying attention. And Justin said Auburn and Bruce had to vacate 12 wins. Don't again, you forget about that. There was some fallout. Had to vacate 12 wins because of this FBI thing. And also want to remember this. You remember we had to sit
yes, I remember.
Austin Wiley and Purefoy.
Yeah.
And Purefoy. I mean, for what? and Alabama played Colin Sexton. They never sat him down, ever.
We weren't happy about it then, and I'll never be happy about it. But I am happy Bruce Pearl's our coach, and it's going to take. It's going to. It's going to take one heck of a coach the rest of my life to reach to the level that Bruce Pearl has gotten. To me and most Auburn fans out there. So War Eagle to him, War Eagle Jerron. Appreciate you tuning in every day. And thanks to all of you out there. We're growing this thing.
Hog Bone Approved Show.
We're growing this thing, but we need those of you that are commenting to continue to do that. It really
Spread
drives
the word.
Conversation for us.
All right, I've got 2 hats and a shirt that we're going to give away. Like Randy said, we'll make a post on it. And again, every 100 subscribers, we're on our way to 600. Now we got to get to 1,000. We want to get to 1,000 as quickly as possible. We got 500 in about 2.5 months. So we've done really well. Keep it coming, guys. We really appreciate it. We try to keep it real on here, and we want you to be as involved as we are. So that's the deal. So I'm going to give away a T-shirt, a couple hats. We'll post the names. And if you don't live around here, you can message me on Facebook with your address, and we'll get that stuff shipped out to you very quickly. So, again, want to thank everybody. Thank all our sponsors, Sense of Green, Lee Apparel, Sign Source, and Bunkers. If you want to put your business on this podcast with us, we'd love to have you. We'd love to promote your product, promote your business. We'd love to have you part of it. Auburn Blitz coming up at noon today with JJ and Andy, so make sure you tune that in, and we'll be back with you tomorrow for another edition of the Auburn Blitz podcast. Have a great day, everybody in War Eagle.